This is Dave. This is Lorna's stepfather. Well, I was just listening to your comments about the masks and whatnot, and I can't bring them up on my phone, but for a couple of weeks before she passed, she was messaging me to where I work for respirators. She's like, "Dad, can you bring me home some respirators?" But of course, so obviously they weren't supplying them to her. I had to sneak them out of my shop to bring them to her. And it's just a stupid little mask. You figure this is a multi-million-dollar company, I would think anyway. They're not giving their workers masks. She's begging me to steal masks from my shop. I'm a diesel mechanic for a local bus company, by the way. I'm a welder and fabricator. So I have access to masks. So I would sneak a couple home in my lunchbox and give them to Lorna. So that's how that went. So I know they weren't giving her masks. I helped her mother raise this kid. I've known Lorna since she was 4. She's called me dad her whole life. I'm 6 feet away from Lorna's room. I mean, Lorna's ashes are in a box, just feet away from me. And I mean, she's here with me every day, and it's wicked tough. It's wicked tough. She shouldn't have gone out like that. All I know is she passed out at work, and she lost oxygen, and she had a brain injury, and she was dead. She went to work, and she didn't come home. Supposedly these are very dusty environments in these rooms. I mean, I've never been in one, but supposedly they're very dusty when they're processing this stuff.
We're live tonight. Mike Crawford, Young Jerks. Lot to cover, lot to get into. I don't even know where to start, but I'll try to start. Trulieve blames dead worker, Lorna McMurrey. That's the headline tonight. Pretty disgusting that we'll have to cover this, but after Trulieve, well, for people that don't know, I just assume people listening to this show at this point know what we're talking about. But if you're a new listener from Podcast Addict or Castro, a new subscriber, which does happen, we're talking about Lorna McMurrey tonight, a worker that passed away at Trulieve Holyoke. We broke the story. A lot of reporters have been advancing it. This week, quite a few more reporters advanced the story. We're going to talk about that. Boston Globe, amazing work yesterday, Friday, at Trulieve Framingham. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Shara's story in Commonwealth Magazine, maybe some others. Hopefully, we'll hear from friends and family of Lorna McMurrey. Lorna McMurray passed away at Trulieve cultivation site in January. We found out about it in September, broke the news. And ever since then, we've been covering that. We're on the beat. And it's something that we have a passion for because we've been covering the worker right angle in cannabis, big cultivation in Massachusetts and nationally. We've been looking at the risks, the dangers for a number of years, 5 years, and this landed in our lap. And we've talked to Lorna's stepdad that you heard. We're replaying the clip again. We've talked to her mom, Laura and Dave. Very difficult discussions we had on this show. And we're going to continue this story for them and their friends and family, and especially for the co-workers and the other workers in the cannabis industry in Massachusetts and nationally. If you want to call in tonight, the phone number is 978-560-3155. We're going to go through. Trulieve put out 2 statements this week. One that was on the record from the Trulieve Corporation about this situation. Another from a Trulieve high-placed executive that didn't want to go on the record with their name. Both of the press releases attacked the family statements. They attacked the press coverage. They attacked the union. They attacked not only all those folks, they also attacked Lorna herself. And you'll note in one of the stories in the Boston Globe today, they also attacked another Trulieve worker. Two workers they attacked. Two Trulieve workers they attacked. One dead and one fired. And one Trulieve story from the Boston Globe today. It's just, I mean, that doesn't say it all. This company, it treats their workers like crap. And I think it's well known at this point. The more they respond, the more it's shown that. They thought that they were going to come back with a big pushback and people would listen to that and support that. And no, that's not what happened. What happened is more coverage came out, and we're expecting much more actually on this story. Some of the things that they said, we're just going to bring up some of that. Let's bring up, let's first and foremost bring up the story of the day. Let's bring that up if we can. Yeah, we're going to bring it up. It's the Dan Adams story from Boston Globe. And you might notice, we attacked the Globe pretty heavily and Dan himself, and they've done the right thing. This isn't personal for me. This is about the story, and the coverage today was excellent. Or was this even yesterday? I forget what day. No, this came out today. So this came out today. Trulieve CEO arrives in Massachusetts amid a union push. And this was yesterday when it went down. We got the tip too. We tried to let some reporters know. Dan obviously got the tip, and he showed up, and Florida cannabis conglomerate facing scrutiny over the death of a worker by Dan Adams, Boston Globe staff, posted today at 12:39 p.m., October 22nd. It starts off Kim Rivers, and I love this picture. Look at this picture. Kim Rivers is running from Dan Adams. Low key, easy Dan, who I said was a Chardonnay sipper. She's running away from Dan Adams. I mean, this is pretty. And they kicked him out of the dispensary. Poor Dan Adams. I don't think he's ever been kicked out of any place in his life. They kicked him out of the dispensary. Let's read this though. Kim Rivers, the chief executive of Florida-based marijuana conglomerate Trulieve, traveled to Massachusetts and met with workers Friday afternoon at the company's Framingham dispensary, a visit that comes after the death of a worker at Trulieve's Holyoke production facility, and amid a campaign to unionize workers at the firm's 4 locations in the state. It goes on, it kind of, repeats some stuff, but this is where it gets really good down here. It says Rivers refused to answer questions about the Holyoke tragedy from a Globe reporter at the Framingham marijuana store Friday, and Trulieve managers immediately asked the reporter to leave. Rivers later exited hurriedly through a side door and drove away in a chauffeured SUV. There she is, running away. They had a lot to say the day before. We're gonna bring some of that up too. They had quite a bit to say the day before, but on Friday, they were running away from the Globe reporter. Let's bring up what they were, some of the smears that they tried to put up this week. It's really disgusting stuff. I'm doing the wrong browser right now. I'm also producing the show, so sometimes it gets a little complicated, but we're going to stop the screen share. There we go. And we're going to add a new screen share. I want to show you some other things too. This is just the disgusting stuff. Here it is. Let's bring this one up. This was from an email newsletter that I'm not even going to talk about, what it is, because it's just a joke. It's got actually quite a bit of a following, unfortunately, on email. But this reporter puts this piece of crap out in it, and this is what it said in the beginning. At least it said, around this time, I also spoke with a verified source speaking on behalf of Trulieve, who opted to remain anonymous. They said Lorna was encouraged to leave by her manager on that day with full pay, and she opted to stay. The source claims that union organizers are pushing these headlines to paint Trulieve and all MSOs negatively. The salacious headlines of cannabis killed are totally a scare tactic that is working extremely well on behalf of the unions, they said. Additionally, there have been stories published the past 24 hours suggesting that the OSHA fines were because of this individual's death, which is not accurate. The OSHA fines were for communication issues and signage. They go on to, this is where it really gets gross. They say, the source also verified Lorna had asthma was a smoker and attributed her death to her pre-existing condition, not cannabis dust. So these guys want to come on and say that it's about the union. First of all, talking about all those stories that came out, I would say 80% of those stories talked to me first. And the union was not a part of it when they were talking to me. You know, from the family and the friends and even the community, they want it shut down. They want the place shut down. Like a union is like kind of like, maybe if we can't shut it down, you know. So we were talking to the reporters. The union came in after. The union only came in when employees decided they want a union because of Lorna's death and the way that the company reacted and treated them. That's what it seems like to me. So that's a lie. So that's the lie number one they put out. Number two, they said that her death was attributed to pre-existing conditions, not cannabis dust. They said that she had asthma, was a smoker, and that's the pre-existing condition that killed her, which is really interesting because there wasn't an autopsy done. One thing we've never said on the show, we've even gotten some kind of pushback and beef from people who want us to pretend they know how she died. We don't know how she died. OSHA at one point in their original investigation, they listed cannabis dust, that she had inhaled too much cannabis dust, and that's why she died. They've actually recently taken that off the OSHA report. I think they've rescinded it. It's kind of interesting. We don't really know why, but I think Trulieve actually has something to do with that being removed. And it's funny that they come back and push back on the press for reporting what OSHA said. The press reported what OSHA said. They don't note that. They don't note that Trulieve. So that's being very shady and dishonest to me, trying to change the narrative, being too cute. But then they say that she had asthma. And if you listen to this show and you've listened to the mom, the dad, the family members, they've all said the same thing, that Lorna didn't have asthma until she started working at Trulieve, that the asthma started because she worked at Trulieve. And that's the issue that I think needs to be examined and looked at much more. And Trulieve didn't acknowledge that. They lied. They said she had a pre-existing condition. Pre-existing to what? Pre-existing to her death? Yeah. It started the day she started at Trulieve, is what her friends and family say. It wasn't pre-existing before Trulieve. But it's interesting how they can, no wonder why they wanted to not use their name, because it seems like this is an employer actually lying about an employee, which seems sketchy. And also, even if they weren't lying, they would be like probably releasing HIPAA information. It's also interesting that they want to go after her smoking cannabis. So they sell cannabis to their workers and their employees and their customers and the medical patients. But if someone ends up dying on their property from something else, they're going to blame it on the cannabis that they sold them. That's what I would expect from a right-wing company like this. One of the people that we've recently started digging into is this Kimbrough guy, who is one of the main spokespeople for Trulieve. Interesting character. He likes to shoot pigeons. People throw up pigeons. He likes to shoot them up in the air. Interesting character, right winger. Totally, fits their practice that we have a right wing group here in Massachusetts thinking they could treat workers like shit. All right, Mike Crawford here, Young Jerks. We're going through some of the bullshit that Trulieve said this week about Lorna McMurrey, about the family. I also want to look at Commonwealth Magazine. We're going to bring that one up too. And hopefully we take a couple calls. We're going to try to take some calls here. Oh, now we got the video up again. Let's bring that. I love that little meme that now we have here. Our friends have put a meme up for us, which is pretty cool. We got people on Twitter making memes of the response for Trulieve. They're actually not really making them for us. They're making them for Trulieve. If you want to call in tonight, you can too. 978-560-3155. It's our phone number. Taking calls. But again, I want to share this little segment too. It's funny that Trulieve came back with these statements, both the official statement and the anonymous statement, both attacking saying some of the similar things, attacking, basically the coverage, but also attacking, I feel like, Lorna herself and her family. And it's very interesting that that they would really think that anyone that's paying attention is going to trust Trulieve, who was started, by a husband and wife team. The husband is currently, I believe, in federal jail for bribing public officials. That's how the company started. I don't know about you, but that's not public corruption like that. I don't even know how they have a license in Massachusetts after they did that. The CEO's husband is in jail right now for bribing public officials. They've also been accused of, if you look into some of the short selling of their stock, it's been pretty well known that they've been accused of importing illegally cannabis from other states, because there's no way they could have had produced as much cannabis as they sold in the state of Florida when they first started out. There's also quite a few lawsuits. We could go into some of those. One of the recent ones they settled was, again, employees filed a class action suit against them because they were doing illegal things in the hiring process. This is not a reputable company. This is not a company that treats their employees well. Again, in one story this week in the Boston Globe that came out today, they not only attacked Lorna and blamed her for the death, but they also went after their employee that they fired this week for legally organizing his constitutional right to organize his workplace. They fired that individual. And I'm pretty damn sure that individual is thinking about coming on this show very soon. So again, I think this is blowing up in their face. Everything that they do, they're now union busting. They're intimidating people. They bring in Kim from Florida. She comes into Massachusetts, into the Framingham location, because she knows that there is a union organizing. And she's met by Dan Adams from the Boston Globe. And they kick him out of the dispensary, and she runs away into her chauffeured limousine after they crapped all over the family, after they crapped all over Lorna McMurrey, after they pretended to care about the family a few weeks ago in the press. After they haven't talked to the family, after they haven't reached out to the family. I've talked to the family more than anyone at Trulieve has. They're not a good company. I almost think we need to start thinking about what we're going to do next here. I'm going to bring up Shara's story. She's been doing excellent. I think this is the fourth story that Shara Schoenberg has done with Commonwealth Magazine. Trulieve defends response to workers' death, says Lorna McMurrey was offered paid time off. And again, social media is not buying it. I'm not buying it. It doesn't smell the sniff test. Number one, her family has said that she was complaining that day, that she wanted to go home, that the manager told her that she couldn't go home. They're saying the opposite. They're saying that she was offered paid time off that day. Number one, I don't believe that they were offering paid time off. I think it was going to be some kind of ding, if anything. I'm not buying it. And I don't think anyone else is buying it either. And the social media shows that people aren't buying it. They're not buying it. And there's a reason, because actions speak louder than their bullshit words. Their record against workers doesn't stand up. The 3-page, this is from Commonwealth Magazine. Just going to read a few quotables out of it. The 3-page statement issued by Trulieve spokesperson Rob Kramer said the company wants to address incorrect information that is circulating about the company's response to the death. They want to address incorrect information coming from the family that they won't speak to. The family that has questions that they won't speak to. They want to correct these errors. Trulieve is providing the following information about its facilities, the events surrounding McMurray's tragic death, the statement said. The circumstances surrounding McMurray's death were first reported publicly in late September by cannabis activist Mike Crawford on his Young Jerks podcast. By that time, OSHA had investigated and fined Trulieve for failing to properly communicate with employees about hazardous substances. The story was picked up by numerous other media outlets, including Commonwealth Magazine. They also claim in their press release that there was someone providing CPR on Lorna, which is news to us. It's news to the family as well. I would like to see the documentation. I would like to see more proof on that because we don't believe them, and I don't think the family believes them. Here we go. There has been questions raised about the facility's working condition. McMurray's stepfather, Dave Bruneau, has said McMurray asked him to get her high-quality masks to wear at work. The Boston Globe quoted a former supervisor at the facility who said Trulieve only provided paper medical-style masks. I believe that was Danny. I'm not sure. We played it at the very beginning of the show because I wanted people to hear what the stepfather said. It was in Commonwealth Magazine. It's been in the Globe as well. But you heard it on our show. He said that she was asking to borrow respirator masks from his workplace, that she didn't have the quality masks that she wanted, and she was borrowing them in the months leading up to this. You also heard it here first that there was a second ambulance ride. And that's why fall of 2021, when the Cannabis Control Commission opened their investigation, is very kind of fishy as well. We want to know exactly the date on that. Shara had that today in this new story that came out with Commonwealth Magazine. Towards the end, it says, I'm going to read here it is. There are ongoing investigations in Trulieve by the Cannabis Control Commission and the Department of Public Health. The CCC has said it began its investigation before McMurray's death in the fall of 2021 in response to employee complaints. The CCC did not specify the nature of the employee complaints, but McMurray's mother, Lorna McMurrey, told the Young Jerks that McMurray had previously been taken from work in an ambulance in November of 2021. So this is the latest, and obviously there's also union busting going on. The union has filed a number of complaints with the National Labor Relations Boards. They're accusing Trulieve of engaging in anti-labor, anti-union behavior, including interrogating employees about union activities, requiring employees to attend anti-union meetings. That's union busting. Soliciting employees to revoke their union authorization cards. That's also union busting. Promising a wage increase to discourage union activity. More union busting. Soliciting grievances to discourage union activity. Apparently, in one of the stories, it said they were actually trying to get their employees to call the police on the union reps. That's really scuzzy. This is what they're doing to their workers right now after all this has happened. Surveilling employees engaged in union activity. So they're spying on their employees when their employees are doing legal things. They're requesting employees to call the police. And that is, all these things are illegal, actually. Every single allegation here is illegal if true. They're requesting their employees to call police on, there it is. It's right there in the story. They're requesting employees to call police on union organizers and threatening to increase security because of union activity. So Trulieve isn't investigating in new security to protect their workers from the hazardous work conditions. No, they're going to increase their security and their cameras to spy on their employees and to fire them. Not because they're doing anything wrong, because they're doing legal things to make their workplace a better place. This is the company that we're looking at here. Real scuzzball company. Oh, we have someone here I want to bring up. Thank you so much. We're going to bring up a really good friend of Lorna McMurrey. See what she thinks all about this. McCartney Ford. We had her on probably about a week ago. It's weird how time just flies. I don't even know what day it is anymore. So let's bring her up and see how she's doing. Hey, McCartney.
Hey, Mike. How you doing?
Good. How you doing tonight?
Hanging in there.
You been listening to a lot of this garbage?
Yeah. I caught most of it. While it's fresh in my head, with one thing that you had just said, in regards to Lorna being, brought out via ambulance prior to her death. I mean, that's 100% fact. I spoke with her. If it wasn't that day, it was the day after. that she was originally brought out by ambulance, and that day she was 100% diagnosed. I believe it was at Bay State Hospital with the asthma. There was no breathing conditions prior to working at Trulieve. I just want that to be said first before I forget to say that. But there was no prior breathing conditions. So all of this shit coming out now with Ben Kimbrough, and all of these accusations where she was a smoker. To my understanding, Lorna was not currently smoking cigarettes. She didn't smoke at the time of her death, as far as I know. Did she smoke cannabis? Yes. And this is the industry you're in. Almost every one of the workers there smokes cannabis. I wouldn't be surprised if the CEO smoked cannabis. I mean, we're in 2022. Who doesn't smoke cannabis? And if that's what you think caused her death, then shit, I guess people would be dropping like flies if that was the case.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's unbelievable.
That it is unbelievable. I think they're just pulling that out of their ass at this point. And I mean, I don't know. My whole thing here is going back to what you just said. With now, there's a report that somebody was administering CPR. That's the first time that I've heard that is right now.
Me too. They said that there were
And
3 people that were trained, and they said that they did give her CPR. I mean, hey, it could be true, but again, how can we trust this company when they're
so
pulling
this
this
is
shit?
where
You know what?
right, but
Yeah.
this is where I go back to, okay, there's cameras in every room there, and I'm not asking them to release that publicly. I would never want that to be publicly brought to people. You know, that's a personal thing. But at the same time, that's solid evidence right there. I mean, that says that that would prove everything. So obviously that, I'm sure, has been looked at and taken into consideration. And if this CPR was truly done, then why has it not been reported since day one? Why is it not in that initial report that they're supposed to file within 24 hours of an incident happening? It just seems a little sketchy to me that now that this becomes a whole big story, that now they're going to say that CPR was administered, and they have these wonderful people who did step in to help, and this just still turned out to be such a tragedy. Because I mean, it takes 6 minutes for somebody to be down for things to really go south. So I don't know. I don't see that being true. And if it really was true, then like I said, why has this just come to light right now? Why wouldn't that be the first thing that was said in the report? I mean, even the 911 call, because if you were administering CPR, you would be stating that in your call. Well, we're administering CPR right now. You know, we're doing CPR, we're doing breath until arrival. So did these EMTs, did they take over CPR? Did they begin AED? Or it just kind of seems like the story's changing, because from what I've read, AED was they began AED as soon as they arrived.
Absolutely.
It didn't say that CPR was administered and then they took over with AED.
You know, too,
So
it's so, yeah. And you know, instead of kicking the
it's
guy
just
out
a
from the
little
Boston Globe
strange.
out of the dispensary, how about actually talking to him and saying, "Hey,
Right.
how do we prove?" You know, because the Boston Globe guy would talk to the employees who gave CPR. Doesn't need to use their name. He could protect their identity. No one would know. Like, have them go on the record and tell their story. But they're not doing that. They're
100%.
covering up. You could tell. They ran away. They kicked the guy from the Globe out. And they're not being honest on any of this. They're not. Even in their statement at the end, they finally got honest, and they're like, "This is such a young industry and young." They kept saying "young," which is weird because we're the young jerks. But even beyond that, they said they used "young" twice, and it was almost like that was their excuse. Like, we're a young industry. You got to let us go. Just let us off the hook. we're young. But you know what? Like, if you're young, figure out what the problem is. Like, let's have
Right.
a let's change things and make this better. They're not doing that. They're covering it up.
They're covering it up. Yeah, and that's another thing. When you say a young and a new industry, that's something else that I kind of jotted down today, in regards to that. So now we go back to these reports and we see, okay, so when OSHA went in and they tested the air quality, now in the reports it says the air quality was at acceptable ranges. Now again, this, like you just said, it's a young, or I should say, like they're saying, it's a young industry. So the day, well, first of all, when was this day that they tested these acceptable ranges?
Exactly.
Was it weeks later?
2
Was it
days, 3
months later?
days, even. Yeah.
It was, yeah. It
Or
was
was it the
even
moment
if
she
even if it
collapsed?
was 12
Yeah.
hours later.
Yeah, I know.
And
You
now
can air that
these
place out.
acceptable, exactly. These acceptable ranges, though, in this young industry, how do we know that these acceptable ranges are still safe for us?
Yeah. Where's
We
the
don't.
documentation? We know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where's all these
We've seen
studies
the
that
reports that
back
these
that?
companies get from third parties. We've seen the documentations. Employees
100%.
have leaked them to us. They're not providing those to the press. They're not providing anything. They're just saying, trust us. This is our narrative. It's a bunch of
Of course they're
BS.
not
And you know, like,
doing it because
another
it would
point
not
too,
look good for them.
they still haven't, like, you know, in their whole press release, they went after all this BS about whether it was in the grinding room or it was the pre-roll room, stupid stuff that doesn't make a difference. But important stuff, like what was the employee complaints that started the OSHA investigation of fall? What were these employee complaints about? We still don't know. Trulieve isn't telling us.
I just think there's so much we don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many questions that have gone unanswered. And I mean, it's coming up on a year. I mean,
What do you think? Have you heard anything about what the employee complaints might have been in fall of 2021? Do you think that was related to Lorna getting taken out in the ambulance in November, or do you think it was something else, or did you not hear anything about this from Lorna?
I hadn't heard anything on that. The one thing that I did think that was kind of strange is the whole, in regards to her being told that she could go home with pay. First of all, this is considered, I mean, in a logical world, and I can't speak for this company's employee handbook, but I can say most companies of this size in this industry have an employee handbook. I believe Lorna was given one. I've never read Trulieve's, but several other companies in the same industry would consider this a medical emergency. I mean, anybody really would. Now, if this is a medical emergency, it's not, you can go home. It's, we're going to call 911 for you, and we're going to go from there. We're going to evaluate how you're doing. It's not, you don't send that person home. That's what these safety managers are put in place for, is to tell you that we're going to take care of you. So it's not, okay, Lorna, you're having these breathing issues. Do you want to go home, or we'll send you home with pay? It's no, we're going to figure out what's going on with you and how can we help you, not send you home and push you out and worry about pay. And I want to tell you that I do not believe that she was offered to go home, because I know prior to this incident, there was multiple days, including the day where she was taken out in ambulance previously, that she wanted to go home and was told pretty much to suck it up. So now all of a sudden on this day, she was told, "Oh, go home with pay." I don't believe that. I really don't. And I see somebody coming in saying, wouldn't they have security footage of her getting CPR? And yes, to my knowledge, in this industry, in Trulieve, they have cameras in every room except for the bathrooms, as far as I know. And
Yeah.
I am about 99% sure that within, the couple days while Lorna was hanging on in the hospital, that was discussed. There is footage of this, and the footage was reviewed by people at Trulieve. So yes, there is, to my knowledge, there is footage of this. Is it still there, or did they get rid of it though?
That's a
That's
good
been my
question.
thought. I mean, does this footage still exist, or is it going to be one of those things that you hear about? Oh, they taped over it, or oh, we don't have that, or oh, we don't hold it for so long because it wasn't an investigation at that time. That's something that I think is like you said, that's a good question. I would love to have that answered and find
Yeah,
out
we're
if
getting a
that's
lot of
something
questions
we could
online.
know. But
People making comments. We got Liz says the state should have it, but I don't think they do, and I don't think they will get it. I don't think they
I don't think
have.
they do either.
Yeah, I don't think they've been investigating it right. We got another comment here. Says if they're anything like Trump, then they'll have paid off, set up, and have judges and other legal entities that will only obey their request and either exonerate or find a lesser charge. I don't think they quite have that in Massachusetts yet, but you know what? If you're voting for Republicans, because this is let's put it this way: Trulieve is, as far as I'm concerned, a Republican company. They hate unions. They start off in Florida. They start off paying off public officials. They hate OSHA. They want, they don't want any investigations. If you keep voting for Republicans, this is what you get: people who hate workers, corporations that can get away with murder. And they want, I don't even know why we allow them in Massachusetts. This company is not good. Look at all of the cases against them from the employees.
Yeah, right. I mean, so I want to ask you, Mike. I mean, what do you think about Kim showing up out of the blue? You think she's here to
Kimbrough,
do damage
the guy we put up
control?
with, we put Kimbrough up. He's a guy at Trulieve that we found, and someone suggested that's probably who was the off the source record. We don't really know, but I think it looks like him. I mean, this guy, I probably should find a video, but there's a video out there of him hanging out with one of these other Republican congressmen, and they're basically
I saw that today.
Yeah, they're throwing up pigeons and shooting them. Like that's who these guys are. They're total losers. This guy's a loser, and it's so not surprising that that's who they have. He's a former, I think he's a former Tulsa or somewhere in Oklahoma. He was a city councilor. I'm sure we can find a lot more dirt on him, but I sent him a message. He was too wimpy to respond. For all the tough guy talk he does, he didn't get back.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it would definitely make sense for him to be the anonymous person. But that also leads me to, that's what also is another thing in my head, that all right, so if this anonymous person is in fact Ben Kimbrough, how do you have this information? I mean, you weren't there. Who's your source? Who is it? Your safety manager who got a promotion a month later? Is that your inside source, or are you just pulling this out of your ass? I mean, the whole thing. And let's just say Lorna, was a smoker. What does that have to do with anything? She didn't have asthma before she started working there. She didn't have breathing troubles constantly before she started working there. She didn't have any other trouble. She lived a normal life every day and was at the top point of her life right before she died. She was doing
I think
well.
it's, let's be honest. If you talk to any doctor, right, and say, hey, 27-year-old died, do you think it was smoking? I think they would laugh, because I mean, smoking takes out people in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, long-term
100%.
smoking on your lungs. But 27, there's probably a lot of other things above that are more likely than smoking. That's like ridiculous.
100%.
Especially cannabis. She was smoking cannabis, sir. That's why we think she died. Who says that? A Republican prohibitionist.
Well,
These guys don't care about cannabis.
They don't mention though. Yeah. They don't specify.
Yeah, they don't specify that it was cannabis.
If it was,
again,
being
dishonest.
If they're referring to cannabis or cigarettes. Yep. But either way, one, why does it matter?
Yep.
Two, why be anonymous when you have the need to say these things? And 3, I mean, if you're so worried about cannabis, if that's what you are in fact trying to say, then why are you working and running a company that sells cannabis? If it's this deadly killer, then I don't think so many people would be smoking it religiously, no less. And I just find it really funny because I mean, I had, like I mentioned in last week's show, I've been friends with Lorna for about half my life, 15 years. We we smoked on and off, smoked cannabis 14, 15 years old. She never had a breathing problem then. She never had any health issues then related to ever smoking or in general. There was no health problems ever. So I just find it really, I guess, coincidental that she gets this job and it all goes downhill very quickly from there. That's just really coincidental to me. A 27-year-old gets this job that she believes is going to be her dream job. She's in the industry she's always wanted to work in. She's happy as can be. Like I said last time, she bought her first car, was super pumped about that. I mean, just overall happy for the first time, I think, in a while. And then it all went downhill really quick, like in a matter of like weeks. I was going through Facebook messages from her, and she was having ear infections. She was having something that they thought was very similar to COVID or bronchitis, but yet couldn't be diagnosed. They weren't saying it wasn't COVID. They tested her for it. She was out several days for it. I can't remember if this was prior to or after the first ambulance ride, but she was out on antibiotics, and they couldn't figure it out. She went to her doctor or urgent care a couple times, and they diagnosed an ear infection, which also, to me, when you're getting all these breathing issues and everything's getting backed up, that can lead to an ear infection. So that could be because of everything she was dealing with at Trulieve. And I have these messages from her saying, I had one ear infection in this year. It's finally starting to go away from the drops, but now I just got it back in this year as soon as I went back to work. Okay. And then she was out from work, like I said, with something that they really thought it was similar to COVID or bronchitis, but it was neither. They didn't really know what it was. So I would assume it was probably prior to the asthma being diagnosed, prior to the ambulance ride, since she didn't think it was related to the asthma. So that tells you, like, in the very, very beginning of working there, she was already having issues.
We have someone having a meltdown who was a guest on the show recently. He's a Republican. He's mad. I don't even want to post his comments, not because I just don't want to go to war with him. He's a victim too, you know. It's like he's getting mad because he thinks that I'm attacking Republicans and I should be attacking Democrats like Elizabeth Warren, who didn't do anything when he sent stuff to her.
Attacking
and he's also he's also said some ridiculous. Like if I post something to it, it will not be good for him. Some of his comments, I was thinking I should post it because maybe that's the way he's going to get reeled back in. But Jonathan, you're talking about suing. Good luck with that with the Trump judges. Good luck with that with a Trump OSHA. Good luck. I mean, you think Elizabeth Warren is bad. You ain't seen nothing yet. That's my point. And you're getting personal and like you just went after her friggin' parents too. I mean, that's just not. I mean, do you want me to post the comments, John? I mean, it's just you got to reel it in, buddy. I know you've been through a lot, and I don't even want to put a post all. And you have a lot of good info too. So, like, calm down. You want to say anything to that, McCartney? Because he has been a victim too, and he did keep a lot of info on Insta. He's a whistleblower.
This is John from last week. Gotcha.
Yeah, okay. A few weeks ago. Yeah, you know him. What do you think?
I mean, I gotta say, I'm a Democrat all the way. I can't agree with anything Republican, but I'm also not the type of person who gets into politics. I got family who is Trump all the way, and I leave them on that side. But I mean, at the end of the day, all that really matters is a 27-year-old lost her life, and we gotta try and keep doing what we're doing, keep getting answers. I mean, I can't thank you enough, Mike. You've been on it. Shit, you've kept me more informed than I've been through it all with everything you've sent me and all the latest. And I think everything you've been doing has been
All right,
huge
I'm going to
and
post one thing
very
up here.
helpful. So
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Bacardi, but this is what
no.
he's attacking me, so I'll put that up. I love attacks on me. He said, "You're such a effing liar. Why don't you tell people Elizabeth Warren covered this up? I have audio recordings of her department calling me back and saved it on my voicemail." Wow, you know what, Jonathan? I'm going to say congratulations. You got a call back from Elizabeth Warren because I've never gotten a call back from Elizabeth Warren,
I
and I've
know,
tried.
wow, that's amazing.
So congratulations. I mean, that's, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's weird. It's just weird. I've actually tried to work with Elizabeth Warren, never got any help from her, but I don't hate her. You know what I mean? It's not like her fault. Like, I don't know.
Right.
I'm going to post another one. Maybe it's time to start an effing podcast on my own. Don't worry. I got so much time to show people Blue 911 what Democrat Bill Clinton was doing. Oh, man. I don't know, man. This isn't about Bill Clinton. That's all I'm going to say.
Right.
And now he wants to talk about Epstein and Clinton. Well, you know, I don't know. I don't even know where to go with this right now. It's just too weird.
That's too much for me. I don't
Yeah.
have anything to even say on that other than I still say vote Democrat all the way.
Yeah, I'm really talking about the national too. Like, if you continue to elect Republicans, which looks like it's going to happen in this midterm, guess what?
Right.
OSHA's like, they're already F with OSHA. That's why there's no money here. And, you know, the Democrats in Massachusetts aren't much better. There's not a question about it. Like, I'm not saying they're great. We're usually in opposition to you're looking at a person who went and protested at the house of the head Democrat in the state at the time, Bob DeLeo. I did that. Like, you know, I'm not about party. I'm just about honesty. And John, I don't think you can handle a nuanced conversation. I think you're getting a little out of control in the comments. So we're just going to probably ignore his comments at this point. What do you think, McCartney?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I totally agree with what you said. I vote for honesty. I mean, I will 100% say that I worked my ass off to make sure Trump had no chance. But if you're honest and I think you can do the job, you have my vote. But other than that, I think none of this really matters other than, getting justice for Lorna.
Yeah. And I will say that, he's saying that right now in the comments that a Democratic run CC covered this up and that it's all Democrats, Democratic senators. And I'm saying that's not even true in Massachusetts. There's a governor who's been a Republican for quite at least 2 terms now, who nominated a number of cannabis control commissioners, usually the worst ones, by the way. The only good one he ever nominated, as far as I could tell, was Shalene Title, by the way. But then he didn't re-nominate her because she was too good, made him look bad. And, the Democrats haven't done anything much better. I mean, both Democrats and Republicans in Massachusetts have basically sucked on the cannabis issue. Let's be honest. I'm honest. And this guy is getting like more and more angry. I don't understand it. Like, we call out the truth that the Republicans are anti-labor on the national level. And if you vote for them, you're voting for more of the shit. You're supporting Trulieve. Yeah. I mean, that's it. Who runs this company? A bunch of Republicans. It's the truth. And I'm sorry, Jonathan, if you don't like that. Call in, too. Don't be a coward. Call in. You want to keep going on in the comments, call in. 978-560-3155. Tell McCartney what you were saying about Lorna's family, maybe, if you have the balls to say it to her face.
I'd love for him to say that to me.
John's also a victim too. I don't want to goad this guy, but he's just he's got to ease up in the comments.
But at the same time, Laura and David don't need any shit, nor do they deserve anything. I mean, Laura had two great parents who loved her more than anything in the world. And the last thing that they need is any negativity in their life, nor do they deserve it. They lost a child at 27 years old. You should never, ever have to lose your baby. And that's what I'm on here for. I mean, Lorna would be laughing at me going, "You hate talking to people. I can't believe you've talked, twice now or talk to the news stations, but I'm doing it because I hope even if just one person, if this helps one person who's in this industry, or this brings attention to Lorna's case or helps in any way, then I've done my part. Although I truly believe that Lorna is watching, because I swear to you, I opened my phone the other night, and I mean, there's no way this could happen, but it did. I mean, my husband saw it, and we had a conversation labeled weirdos on Facebook, an old conversation, and it popped up. It was right on my screen as soon as I opened my phone. I said, all right, she's telling me, like, good looking out, keep speaking up. It was crazy. So I think if I can help in some small way, then hopefully I did.
Thank you. We're speaking of McCartney Ford. She was a friend of Lorna McMurrey. If anyone wants to call in, including Jonathan, 978-560-3155. Maybe you have a question or comment. It's funny because in the last few weeks, the only two people I've like really, besides, the Globe fiasco and some of that crap that bubbled up, but I think that got handled by the Globe actually doing a great job. The Globe did phenomenal reporting. They did a phenomenal op-ed recently. They just put out a good report, so we're good with them. But there's been like two guys, and they get caught up in shit. It's like, guys, it's always the guys. Stop with your one-trick pony. It's not about what you want. This is about Lorna and letting people tell their truth, whether you agree with it or you disagree. It's not a big deal if someone says something that you don't agree with. You don't have to spaz out. That's what I'm really getting like frustrated on with some of these guys. Like, I let people say shit on the show that I don't agree on. It's not a big deal. Just let it go. But 978-560-3155. We're speaking to McCartney. She was friends with Lorna. I want to ask you, after you came on the show last time, Laura came on the show. It was very heartbreaking, but one of the things she really said is she was thanking you and other folks like Danny for speaking up. Did you hear that?
Yeah,
and what did you think about it?
I did. I ended up, because I know you cut out a little bit when you talked to her originally, but I did listen to the podcast you posted when you had her call back, and I thought that was very sweet. I know she appreciates it, and I know how hard, or at least I can only feel and imagine how hard it's been for her. But I know she appreciates any and all support from everybody who's coming forward. And I hope that if there's other people who are listening and they have any sort of information, no matter how small they think it might be, if you were there that day, or you happen to have some information that could help in some way, come forward. I mean, just it's like, to me, is a job that important, especially with such a piece of shit company, if you're still with them at this point. I don't know, are they paying you on the side, or are they paying you off? Because I mean, if I wouldn't work for them, that's for sure. I wouldn't have worked for them prior to Lorna passing. I had not heard good things, and I had not heard, Lorna was super happy with the job in the beginning, but it certainly seemed like they do not value their so-called, and I quote, Trulieve saying, their family, their 9,000 employees that are family to them. Sure doesn't seem like they treat their lovely employees like family. They obviously don't care too much with all this cover up and anonymous things being said. I mean, it just all seems super sketchy, and it's getting sketchier by the day too. More and more coming forward. I just hope that at some point, hopefully sooner rather than later, that there's some sort of closure. That's
My
all
partner
I
just
hope
walked
for.
in the room, so I'm like signaling to her. I'm trying to figure out what she's doing down here. It's if anyone's distracted by me, but I'm still talking to Jonathan. I think he actually maybe stopped after you told me to F off and all this other crap. But Jonathan, I
Okay.
just also want to mention, to me, this isn't about party. Like this week, I was also attacked by people on the left for a couple idiots, a couple loudmouths, you know, a lot of loudmouths I get attacked on. And why did they attack me? Because I posted something from Republican for auditor who came on the show recently, Anthony McMurrey, and he was supporting Lorna. If we have Republicans that want to support Lorna and support workers, then I'm interested in that. But generally, we don't see that. And Anthony, I think, is the exception. And that's why, you know, it's not even about, for me, about like picking sides. Like I like both Diana DiZoglio and Anthony McMurrey, the Republican and the Democrat for the office. So again, it's just funny. It's just funny that we get crap from every side, no matter what we do. But I guess that's what happens when you start to do well on things. Unfortunately, we didn't want to.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah. So
I guess when you start to get big and you start to get the word out, people
now someone's up there.
sides.
What the heck is this whole Democrat cover-up thing? They're in the comments. People are asking the question. There is no whole Democrat cover-up thing. I mean, I think more than anything, this is a Republican enacted situation. If you look at unions across the country, they're getting demolished. And, you know, the OSHA, they're not funded like they were. There's something wrong. And I think a lot of it is because we've had Donald Trump and we've had, you know, other Republicans in there just undercutting. But some people want to blame it on the Democrats at the State House in Massachusetts. I'm fine with that too. Like I'm the one who pisses. They all hate me. Like, it's funny. They're saying that I'm the Democrat guy. Go ask them. They all know me. They're all afraid of me, and they don't really usually like me much. You're not going to see a lot of them still. I mean, we have some Democrats that come on the show. We've had some elected officials. We had Ed Markey come on, U.S. Senator. But I don't think Ed Markey will come on again. You know, a lot of these guys, like, and ladies, you know, we're not the favorite. We're not the insiders. We usually challenge. Like when Tito Jackson ran against Mayor Walsh in Boston, we chose Tito Jackson. We knew Mayor Walsh was going to win. We could have had Mayor Walsh on the show. He was the top Democrat in the city of Boston. We chose the underdog. That's usually how we roll. So I don't know, you know, look at our record. Don't look at it, some guy who's just shouting out stuff that just about Elizabeth Warren, who we've never had on the show. We've asked to come on the show. I mean, she's not a friend of our show. She's never responded to my email. At least you got someone to call you back. Jonathan Crystal, the guy who started this, is working for Elizabeth Warren, obviously, because she called him back, or someone from her office called him back, and they didn't call us back.
Pretty impressive, yeah. To get
Right?
call back, yeah.
Right, McCarty.
Yeah, I mean,
you see where I'm
good
going?
for him. Yeah, good for him. He's got that voicemail saved.
Yeah. I'm just,
but he hasn't called in though, has he? I mean,
yeah.
we haven't heard
he's not
from you after that. You're not calling in to speak your side of it, Jonathan. So
David, who writes weird comments tonight, maybe Trulieve is watching. No, it's just one person who's he hates Democrats. You know, and I said something about Republicans tonight, and it's the truth. We have an election coming up in 2 weeks. And Republicans are the worst thing for the labor movement. You know? That's what I said. And it's the truth, especially on the national level. You know, the reason why Trulieve shouldn't be able to get away with the shit that they do in Massachusetts as compared to Florida is because Massachusetts is a Democratic state with a lot more labor protections. And that's why you're actually going to see some of these shops get unionized in Massachusetts, where it won't happen in the Republican state of Florida, where they spent tons of money trying to unionize those shops down there.
Yeah, I don't know.
Who's better? I would say the Democrats are better. They suck too, but they suck less than the Republicans. That's the truth. And I said it, and this guy got mad about it.
All right. Does everybody know? I mean, I don't know if everybody knows that Trulieve is primarily in Florida.
Yeah.
They've just kind of now brought their business over to New England, but they are based I don't want to give a percentage, but I want to say like up to 80% of their business is in Florida. They're really just coming here, and they're really not doing a good job of I'm coming over here. I mean, I know multiple people who've been offered jobs with Trulieve and have turned those down instantly. They want nothing to do with anything this company has to offer, which that speaks a lot.
Random things wrote. I guess Jonathan has his panties in a bunch. Yes, he does. LOL.
Yeah.
It's true. That's a comment, but you know what? Let's not give
That's
John a
fine,
hard
though.
time.
He was he was on the ball when he was on last week, though. I mean,
Yeah.
I felt for him
John
with
was good
everything he
on
went
Insta.
through.
He was really
Yeah,
good on
like,
Insta. He needs to
and he
he needs
spoke
to
about
stick
it.
to
He said
that.
he was on the ball. So
Let his politics go. You know,
I think
he gets
getting.
triggered by that stuff.
See, that's why I don't talk politics, because it brings out the worst in people. John's
But we
gotta
have
just
to.
dial it back.
Yeah.
You
But at the
have
same
to at
time, we
some
have to,
point,
McCartney.
but
We
yeah,
kind of
but this is not the time for him to do that. And then to
Yeah.
bring Lorna's parents into it, you need to
that was
dial it
weird.
back,
Some of his
buddy.
comments were weird tonight. Not
Yeah,
cool. Not cool.
maybe
He
something is
actually
going
I
on.
think he should actually apologize to Lorna's parents, but that's me.
Yeah, definitely. Laura and David don't deserve that, and to have any negativity towards them is just cruel, dude. Come on. Somebody lost their life here. There's no reason to bring her parents into it, her friends, her family, nobody. If you're angry at Mike, you're angry at anybody who's saying anything, that's fine. You know, you can state your opinion, but you don't need to bring her into it.
Thank you so much for calling in tonight, McCartney. We're speaking of McCartney
Yeah.
Ford. She's a friend of Lorna. She's friends of the family. We're speaking tonight about what Trulieve did this week. They were pretty vile. I'd say their actions were vile. Would you agree with that?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I just think that they continue to show that the kind of company they are and how they handle situations. And I think that a lot of people need to realize this is not the first incident that has happened at a Trulieve facility. This is not the first time something has happened to somebody working for Trulieve. I mean, a simple Google search will show you that information. And I mean, like I stated last week, Lorna had multiple times told me that she was told to put moldy marijuana in the pre-rolls. It's all right, we'll put it in the pre-rolls. And she reported that. She reported that there was mold in their cannabis.
Who she
And
report that
that's
to? To her supervisor?
I don't know if it was a supervisor or just a manager or another employee. I would assume it wasn't just an employee. I'm sure it was a higher up. I don't want to say for sure because I don't know, but I know that she went to somebody and she reported it. She told me on 2 separate occasions. She said she actually called me one time and she goes, "Hey, does this seem kind of weird to you?" And I said, yeah, incredibly strange. Like that's not normal. That's not okay. And that's when I actually went on Google real quick and I typed in Trulieve mold in cannabis or something like that. And then you saw tons of stuff coming up on Reddit. And not just this year, but 2020 and 2021.
Yeah, there's been a
So
lot of
for at least
reports
the
of it.
past couple of years. Yeah, and
And
a lot
was
of it
she
is in pre-rolls, but some of it is like straight up like they bought eighths of flour and the whole eighth was moldy. So my question then is, I mean, there's so many steps that it has to make it through, so many checkpoints that this is going through. So how is it still getting out there? Well, then I think back to, okay, well, she just told me, Lorna had said, okay, well, I was told to put it in those pre-rolls. But even still, those pre-rolls are supposed to be, regularly checked and have all these, strict things in place. But it just goes to show that somehow, some way, Trulieve is still getting away with their garbage marijuana. And
let's
they're just
just
letting
restate that.
it slide.
Lorna told you that they were putting moldy cannabis in the pre-rolls, that she was told to do that. She reported it.
Yes.
Did she feel like
Twice.
she was going to get sick from that, or that may have been contributing to her asthma? Did she say anything like that to you?
she did kind of say that in a way. She, at one point, I believe, I I think it was at Christmas time, she had said that she was pretty excited that, I guess, I'm pretty sure they gave her marijuana as a Christmas gift. I don't know if it was like given out as gifts or if they had it out during the day at work or whatever. I don't know how it was actually dispensed to them, but it was somehow gifted. And she then had a concern of if she was just being told to put the moldy marijuana into pre-rolls, then should she be smoking this? And to my knowledge, she didn't want to smoke the product that she was working with at multiple points. Because I actually remember her at one point saying that she was asking me about dispensaries, other local dispensaries that she could go to.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, just it's
she
so
didn't
funny
want
where
to
we started.
smoke
We
the
started with
product.
Trulieve saying that smoking caused her death. Well, she was too afraid to continue to smoke the Trulieve flower. Maybe that was what killed her. Maybe it was the mold from the Trulieve flower she smoked. Maybe they're not lying. Maybe it's weird, isn't it? I mean, this is just
maybe they aren't lying. Maybe because
Trulieve still killed her, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's so
right.
bizarro.
Yeah, I mean, well, if you think about it, if she was in there with mold is so bad for you in the first place. Like when you have mold, like if you say you had mold in your basement, you're not supposed to be around that. Like if you have to take care of mold, you're supposed to like have masks and gloves or like a professional come take care of it. So if there truly was regularly mold in the cannabis at Trulieve, you're breathing that in every day. Whether you have a mask on or not, there's still particles of that in the air. So I know for a fact, because I had asthma as a child, that mold is a huge set off for asthma attacks. So if in fact there was regularly this mold getting through in the cannabis at Trulieve, then she was constantly breathing that in. And that just goes back to show that, to me, that says, they didn't care too much about these family employees of theirs that they call family, because as soon as she told them that she was diagnosed with the asthma, and as soon as she told them, her supervisor, that she was having breathing issues, she should have never been back in cultivation, and she should have never been in packaging. She was hired as a floater. She was not hired as cultivation. She was not hired as packaging. She was hired as a floater. So there's tons of other jobs in other parts of the facility she could have worked in, which she had previously worked in. And yes, she did want to be in cultivation. Yes, that's what she enjoyed. But she continuously told them she was having issues in cultivation and in packaging. So she should have never been back in there. That's a safety issue right there. So why did the safety manager say, hey, Lorna, we're not going to have you in these areas anymore? And right there, I think that would have been life-changing, literally life-changing, not having her in those areas, because there was still other opportunities for her if she wanted to continue working at Trulieve safely. But they didn't give her those opportunities. They pushed her right back into cultivation, right back into packaging. And those are the two highest risks for somebody with breathing issues. So I think that's a huge question that I continue to think of, is why they have this safety manager who was promoted a month after Lorna's death. Why did they allow her to continue to work in a dangerous environment for her due to having these new promoted a month after Lorna's death? Why did they allow?
We're speaking of McCartney Ford. She's a friend of Lorna McMurrey, who passed away in January. And we're just speaking about the Trulieve response, which has been pretty despicable. especially this week with, first it was silence, and then it was attack the family, attack Lorna herself. And it's been a bunch of BS, and it didn't work out for them. They were chased out of Framingham. The CEO was chased out of Framingham this week. They had charges filed against them from the union this week. It's been a bad week for Trulieve. We don't expect it to get better because they're not taking any accountability for what happened. They're not owning up to it. They're not trying to fix it. They're not trying to even find out what really happened. So we're going to keep on this. We're going to keep speaking out. I thank you so much, McCartney Ford.
Thank you, Mike.
It's really nice that you call in and support the family and give us kind of their side of it. Thank you so much for calling tonight.
Thank you, Mike. Have a good night.
You too.
Take care.
Where the Young Jerks were that was McCartney Ford. She was a friend of Lorna McMurrey. She's also someone who speaks to the family. We want to thank her so much for calling in tonight. We had a comment here come in from Random Things. We need to come together and figure it out instead of finger pointing. Well, I think most of us have come together. I think there's just one guy who's upset about that I made a political statement tonight. It's based in reality. If you are voting for Republicans, you are voting for people who are going to cut OSHA, people who don't care about workplace safety. No doubt about it. Not even a question. And yeah, you could say Elizabeth Warren's not even doing enough. I'm down on that. There's no question on that too. David writes, "We're going to be all right." I don't know, man. This election doesn't look good for the Democrats. We get more Republicans in there. But again, this isn't about politics. This is about Lorna McMurrey getting her justice. Justice for Lorna. Hashtag justice for Lorna. That's the beat over here. Monday night, got a big show. We're going to speak to 3 folks on the science side of this stuff. We're going to be talking to them. They go into these dispensaries, these cultivation sites. They are the consultants. They are the ones that tell the dispensaries whether it's safe, how to fix them, what their issues are. And they've got a lot of stories for us. Monday night, 7 p.m. is going to be a special show. Definitely check that out. And maybe something special on Tuesday night. We'll see. Expect a lot more shows on this. Mike Crawford, I want to thank everyone for supporting us. All the folks who listen, sharing this. I see people sharing it tonight. I want to thank the reporters. I want to thank Dan Adams from the Globe for the nice story that he wrote. I want to thank Eric Casey. He wrote a great story this week as well, and especially Shara from Commonwealth Magazine. It's great to see the locals advancing the story. It's also great to see all of the reporters from Leafly and High Times and Benzinga. Benzinga has been doing great coverage on this. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes next on this. And I want to just tell the family and the friends, and especially the workers out there, keep your head up, get organized. Don't let them give you any shit because they're running scared, and it's because of what you're doing. You got to keep going. Got to keep exposing, keep whistleblowing, keep coming on this show. We're the Young Jerks. And again, if any reporters are out there looking to find out more information on this, you can always hit me up. But the easiest way to cover this story anywhere you are, it's what Eric Casey did this week. He bypassed me, which I liked. He just went out and found some employees to talk to. And they told them all the same shit that we hear on this show. And it was awesome. And that's what you need to do. If you're in California or Massachusetts or anywhere in between and you have dispensaries in your backyard, big cannabis, go talk to the employees. If you're an activist and you want to start a blog or a podcast, one of the guys we're sparring with on the right said he was going to start his own podcast. I hope he does. Hope it's very successful. I'll support it. Especially if he's exposing big cannabis. I think everyone should be doing it. We're very supportive of other folks doing this. You can ask around. We love when other folks get, their own podcast, especially if they're exposing stuff like this. So we stick together. Mike Crawford, Young Jerks, I want to thank everyone for supporting us. We'll see you again on Monday night. Check it out. I'm going to play this video one more time. I think people need to see it. Good.
This is Dave. This is Lorna's stepfather. Well, I was just listening to your comments about the masks and whatnot, and I can't bring them up on my phone, but for a couple of weeks before she passed, she was messaging me to where I work for respirators. She's like, Dad, can you bring me home some respirators? But of course, so obviously they weren't supplying them to her. I had to sneak them out of my shop to bring them to her. And it's just a stupid little mask. You figure this is a multi-million-dollar company, I would think anyway. They're not giving their workers masks. She's begging me to steal masks from my shop. I'm a diesel mechanic for a local bus company, by the way. I'm a welder and fabricator. So I have access to masks. So I would sneak a couple home in my lunchbox and give them to Lorna. So that's how that went. So I know they weren't giving her masks. I helped her mother raise this kid. I've known Lorna since she was 4. She's called me Dad her whole life. I'm 6 feet away from Lorna's room. I mean, Lorna's ashes are in a box, just feet away from me. And I mean, she's here with me every day, and it's wicked tough. It's wicked tough. I mean, she shouldn't have gone out like that. All I know is she passed out at work and she lost oxygen, and she had a brain injury and she was dead. Like, she went to work and she didn't come home. Supposedly these are very dusty environments in these rooms. I mean, I've never been in one, but supposedly they're very dusty when they're processing this stuff.